the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. There is the Museum of Design just on the right over here, and that is Central Park directly in front of you. I'm going to be driving alongside the park on the west side of it for a while, and I'll come back later on the Fifth Avenue side. The building where the police barricades are located, which is the reason why I'm not going to be driving alongside the park from there, is the Trump International Hotel and Tower. Here at Columbus Circle, there is Jazz at Lincoln Center. Off to the left, you can see on the screen. And there is also the Mandarin Oriental Hotel, where the bus is located just on the right at that traffic light here. That is 15 Central Park West. The bus is about to turn, so I'm guessing that could be possible for me to do the same, but go around it. So 15 Central Park West, which is just off to the right side here, is where actually lives the Academy Award winner Denzel Washington. Not sure if you heard of Denzel. If you never heard of that actor, you probably should act like you did, because it's amazing. Okay, and that is also where they sold an apartment a couple of years ago for $88 million to a Russian millionaire who purchased it for his daughter, who was just 26 years old. Can you believe that? Coming to study in New York. $88 million apartment. Like the scariest thing your daughter could ask you is, hey dad, hey mom, can you get me that $88 million apartment? And I guess I'm gonna say, no, I'm giving you an iPod, you know, or I can't do that, or do you know how many tours it takes to get $88 million? On the left side of this intersection is Lincoln Center. It is a complex dedicated to art and performance. Lincoln Center opened around 1960. At the location where it is used to be a whole lot of apartments and fight between Irish immigrants and Puerto Ricans. So there are about 400 apartments that were destroyed. A lot of people moved in 1959 to build Lincoln Center. It was Irish immigrants, restaurant owners, and Puerto Ricans, restaurant workers who were fighting. And that is the scenario, the inspiration to West Side Story, which is also the history of this area. And part of it was filmed over here. As you can tell, traffic is back in New York. On the left side of the screen, just on the corner there, there is a glass building coming up. I hope you can see it well. The Juilliard School. Imagine 1,000 applicants, they accept 10 or 15, or, you know, in that proportion. It is the most famous school of music, dancing in the country. The Juilliard School, where professors of music used to be people like Pavarotti or Sarah Vaughan. Yeah, if you're a student at Juilliard, you definitely can make it in other areas of that industry. So now we're on Broadway. And if you are in the city, in Midtown or downtown, Broadway is a one-way avenue, but when you come to this area, it's a two-way avenue. So people who never wandered this far are probably not aware of that. Broadway is also the longest city street we have in the city, because it goes all the way from the bottom of Manhattan all the way up, and that's about 12.5 miles in length. Okay, it's a diagonal, and it crosses avenues at different intersections. Whenever Broadway goes left of an avenue at an intersection, it creates a triangle, and that triangle we refer to as a square, meaning an open area the authorities use for the public. Broadway goes left of 7th Avenue on 45th Street, we call that square. We named that after the New York Times, it's Times Square. Broadway goes left of 6th Avenue on 34th Street, we call that square. We named that after the Herald newspaper, that's Herald Square. And so on and so forth. So here, the colors of the street signs do matter. The green and white colors, a brown and white street sign, you are next to a landmark. like here on West 70th Street. So on the left side of my screen right now, there are buildings that are newer and simply ugly, except the orange one called the Alexandria, where Urban Outfitter is at the bottom. But on the right side of the screen, there are older buildings. And on the right side of the screen, you actually will have more brown and white color street signs, Central Park Historic District, and a lot of these older buildings here that are protected because of either their history or their exterior that is so special and unique and rare that they deserve that protection. On the left side, you have buildings that really don't, historically perhaps, or architecturally, are not as important to us at this point. One of my favorite buildings in the city, we're gonna see here soon, before I make my turn, that will be the one covered with scaffolding. Unfortunately, directly in front of us on the left side of that screen there is the Ansonia building. The Ansonia apartment building, the one covered with the scaffolding behind the rainbow flag. Babe Ruth had lived there from 1920 to 1929. Angelina Jolie, Halle Berry in the movie The Perfect Stranger lived over there. And here's 72nd Street. We're gonna turn over here, head towards the park now. And I'll pass by where John Lennon used to live on this street here. So Central Park directly in front of us. And a delivery bike. There you go. Probably think, careful there. Jaywalkers. It's raining a little bit, noticeably, and I'm also using the wipers, so hopefully that does not interfere too much with your viewing and the quality of the streaming. So Central Park, directly in front of us. Central Park goes from 59th Street to 110th Street. So my goal today is to drive alongside the park all the way to 110th Street and then go towards the Fifth Avenue side to talk about more art on the Fifth Avenue side of Central Park, where we have Museum Mile. And 110th Street is also the beginning of Harlem. And we'll get to briefly mention that as well. The last building on the left before the park is the Dakota House. John Lennon had lived over there from 1980, he lived there, I think from 77 to 80. He was killed December 8th, 1980 by Mark David Chapman, the same guy he gave autograph to earlier that night. So it's the last building on the left, looks like a French castle. It's really beautiful. It's called the Dakota House. He was killed at the entrance of the building, December 8th, 1980. And that's why you see those candle light at the entrance. It's not electric light, it's candle light just here off to the left at the entrance of the Dakota House. He owned the top floor, the one with the balcony. Yoko Ono still lives there. John Lennon used to hang out in the park directly in front of you in this section of Central Park we call Strawberry Fields Forever. You're all probably too young to have heard of Strawberry Fields. I don't know, but that's also the name of a song of the Beatles written by John Lennon, which was named after the orphanage in Liverpool, where he hung out quite a few times. Now, Strawberry Fields in Central Park has a mosaic that represents a teardrop that says, "Imagine." And now you see another tall building here in front of you. The first tall buildings you can notice is actually, I'm gonna move the camera up a little bit so you can see, that's the San Remo Towers, number 145, 146 Central Park West, San Remo. That's the name of a town in Italy. It was built in 1930 by Emery Roth Architect Group. San Remo had the biggest number of famous people living in one building. And that includes Dustin Hoffman, Diane Keaton, Steven Spielberg, Steve Martin, Bill Murray, and Fred Ebb. Now, you might not be familiar with the name Fred Ebb, maybe you are, but you definitely know Fred Ebb because he wrote the musical Cabaret, he wrote the musical Chicago, and he wrote the lyrics for a New York anthem New York, New York, sang by Frank Sinatra. And we just passed the museum we call the New York Historical Society. And now just outside of the Natural History Museum, you see cops and the statue of Teddy Roosevelt. The only two museums really that are here on the west side of the park. The New York Historical Society, the oldest museum in New York City. Okay, I love that museum. They have a children's museum inside. They have a statue of Frederick Douglass just outside and a statue of Abraham Lincoln also. Okay, so that is the New York Historical Society. If you have the chance, please check it out. Nice cafe they also have. And then the American Museum of Natural History, everyone's seen in the movie Night at the Museum 1 and Night at the Museum 2. And they close every day at 5 p.m. Beautiful museum as well. This building here, the one we seen from a distance earlier, right across the street from the light, that is the Beresford, number 1, 81st Street, and number 211, Central Park West. Jerry Seinfeld lives there. Robert Redford, Glenn Close also lives there. And now we continue on our tour. Straight in front of you, the building with the beautiful gray lamp on top of it. It's quite tall, very slim lamp on top of it. It's called the El Dorado Tower. It's number 300 Central Park West. It's the tallest building. I mean, on the right, you can only see trees. So it's the only building on the left. It's hard to see now with the trees, but number 300 Central Park West is where Marilyn Monroe had lived for a short period of time as well. Okay. I'm not sure, excuse me, if you guys can unmute whenever you have a question, your microphone to ask your questions, because it would be really lovely to not just be speaking to myself the whole time. And I would love to answer your questions and comments on the spot whenever possible. So please feel free to unmute your microphones and ask me questions, comments, and things of that nature. Okay, I'm totally fine with that. All right, so a little bit of history of Central Park. Before Central Park, this was quite far from where the city limits used to be. New York, back in 1854, was the area where Macy's is located, about 34th Street. That's where the city ended. And this was quite far north. It was nothing central. So this tall building here in front of you to the left, that's the El Dorado Towers just mentioned. And on the left with the red and white color brick, that is the Dwight High School, $30,000 a year per student. Paris and Nicole Hilton went to school there and came out with the wrong diplomas, I guess. But back to park before its construction. There was just about 86th Street to 92nd Street, where we are right now, 92nd Street. 86th Street all the way about 96th Street or so. There was a village of Black people called Seneca Village that was here. It was about 2,000 people who lived there. And that village was destroyed, was moved to build Central Park. Okay, today they have fossils here. They found all kinds of artifacts that pertain to that history here in Central Park. Researchers and historians are still working on finding a way to incorporate that in the park today. So there are ways maybe that they can put some type of monuments or type of tour or however that is, to never have that forgotten or have that forgotten. Seneca Village. But other than that, Central Park, this was just garbage and rocks, and the rocks we call schist, S-C-H-I-S-T, Manhattan schist. Solid, strong, holds the weight of the skyscrapers, you know. And the only thing that was not added to Central Park was those rocks, the schist. Everything else was brought in. So 3 million cubic meter of soil. We planted trees, you know, put water all kinds of lakes and ponds over here. The people who designed Central Park, Frederick Law Olmsted and Calvert Vaux. Frederick Law Olmsted was a farmer from Staten Island, New York. This is the voice you've been hearing. Hello. Frederick Law Olmsted was a farmer from Staten Island, New York. He was born in Connecticut, but his family moved to Connecticut, I guess, when he was 18. And Calvert Vaux was an architect from England. He just never designed anything before. He just graduated from school. And this was their first job. They won the competition for design of the Greens Ward plan. And they worked together, though they did not really get along, but that's another story for another day. And they did quite a fantastic job, I would say. Central Park is 25,000 trees, 15,000 lamps, 2 theaters, a museum, 2 surrounds, playfields, 7 lakes, off 27 bridges, 7.63-acre garden. And I'm going to stop to talk about this beautiful building on the left with a gray roof here on 106th Street. A beautiful house. Hopefully you took a look at it. That used to be home to Phil Collins, great singer, music engineer Phil Collins. And it's also a place that was a hospital. It was a hospital built for by the Astor family. They were very rich, wealthy family, the Astor family. One member of their family was sick from cancer. They built the first hospital in New York to have research for cancer. And that is where Babe Ruth died, August 16, 1948, from cancer. The cone tops is because back in the days, people had beliefs, thoughts, and ideas. The more corners you have in your house, the more microbes or bacteria you would have. So to avoid that, you have cone tops. So Harlem is straight ahead of us at 110th Street. We are about 109 currently, and at Frederick Douglass Boulevard Circle. Frederick Douglass was born a slave, became very active in civil rights, and for Black people to have education and to have rights, bare minimum. So his statue is straight ahead in the middle, in front of us, surrounded by a couple of people there. One looked like filming something. Harlem got its name from, sorry if you're hearing that sound, tick, 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 it's me, it's the blinkers, and it's hard to just turn it off while you're about to turn. Harlem got its name from the Dutch. Lower Manhattan was called New Amsterdam, and there is a town 15 kilometers northwest of Amsterdam, in Holland, called Haarlem with 2A. So this area was north and west. For them, they called it the New Haarlem as well. So we had Dutch, Jewish, German, Italians. Now you have African American, you have Native African, you have Hispanic, have all kinds of groups in Harlem, just essentially what New York is itself. A lot of people still do not know that Harlem is not the cheapest place to live in New York, and you can actually walk around here safely. It is not the 70s where the whole country had problems of crack cocaine epidemic. No, Harlem is much safer than that. I would expect everyone who lives in the city to know that and spread that news. So we're driving along Central Park North, currently heading towards what was to be the starting location of our tour. Now, there's a lot of churches in Harlem should you want to be part of a gospel prayer. A lot of my clients sometimes ask me, why are there so many churches in Harlem? I mean, what's wrong with that? I don't know. But either way, if you take it back all the way to the 70s, there was first we had a Jewish community here before. In 1917, there were about 170,000 Jews who lived in Harlem. And when they moved out, they left a lot of synagogues over here. Some of those synagogues did not become nightclubs, they became churches. Also around the same time, people needed faith and hope, and walking from a street to another was not even the safest thing. If your church was 3 blocks away, There were high risks that you might not even be able to make it, or you did not walk that far. You did not want to walk that far. So many congregations started to open churches to be closer to their members. So you may see the First Baptist Canon Church, the Second Baptist Canon Church, and such. So there are more than 400 churches in Harlem alone. I often say you don't go to church, the church come to you. But nothing bad again. And all types of congregations here. You got Baptist, Orthodox, you got kinds of them. So now where those two tall buildings are at the end, that is pretty much Fifth Avenue. And that's where I will be turning at Duke Ellington Circle. If you haven't rented a place in Harlem recently, with the gentrification, the cost of living in Harlem went up. You can imagine a 2-bedroom apartment starting around $2,000, even probably more than that in this neighborhood. So I don't live here right now. I live in New Jersey. I'm a tour guide, just to say. Also, at this location here, which is Lenox Avenue and also known as Malcolm X Boulevard, it is the same thing as 6th Avenue north of Central Park. It is Malcolm X was with the Nation of Islam and El Hajj Muhammad. When he went to Mecca, he converted to Islam. He came back to be known as El Hajj Malik Shabazz, and his wife was Betty. Malcolm X did so much for our community here with the Temple number 7, fighting for equal rights, civil rights, you know, and until he got killed at the Audubon Ballroom. So we have his name here on 6th Avenue. Duke Ellington was a great jazz musician who lived in Harlem, and Harlem was a mecca of jazz with Cotton Club and other great places, the Savoy Ballroom, Apollo Theater further up. The statue of Duke Ellington, a little bit hidden by here, the feuillage. Was that someone trying to tell me something? So the statue of Duke Ellington was by Robert Graham for Bobby Sharp. Duke Ellington funeral was at Cathedral St. John the Divine, which is here up in Morningside Heights. Now this place where it says Black Lives Matter, just off to the left here, was supposed to be the African Art Museum to open there, but it's now the Africa Center. It's 1280 Fifth Avenue, where we start Museum Mile. Museum Mile is also the name of a festival that just happened, actually. It happens every year, the second Tuesday of June of every year. It is from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. And all the museums that are part of Museum Mile are closed during that time, but actually they open to the public for no fee, free to get in from 110th Street all about to the Metropolitan Museum of Art, okay? It's all those museums. So the first museum, Museum Mile, off to the left where you see the scaffolding here, is El Museo del Barrio, the museum that is about Hispanic heritage and history. And then next to it, on the left, after the light, is the Museum of the City of New York. Everything pertaining to the history of this city would be there. They even have a 4 minutes long video that'll tell you about the history of New York from the time it was just rocks all the way to nowadays, okay? And outside that museum, there are 2 statues. One is Benjamin Franklin, one is Alexander Hamilton. And across the street from us, probably worth mentioning here with the scaffolding on the left, white color facade, is the Academy of Medicine. The Academy of Medicine facing here, you cannot see it on the right here, sorry guys. Even if I turn the camera, you won't be, but if I take the camera out, yes, you can see it over there, you know, the beige color thing there. That is a monument for Dr. John Marion Sims. Dr. John Marion Sims was a gynecologist. He invented an instrument that many women find very cold. And I guess I'm not going to speak, but you probably have an idea what I'm talking about. If maybe not, who knows? Fifth Avenue, that's where we are. A little bit of traffic now. The light is green, cars are not moving. Great time for you to ask your questions. If you have any You know, I would love to hear them really. Fifth Avenue Museum Mile, when it happens the second Tuesday of June, the avenue itself is closed, so there will be no vehicle over here, and you can walk on the avenue. You'll see some beautiful arts on the street. People will be writing, drawing, all kinds of stuff on the avenue itself. It's quite a celebration. I mean, I guess with the COVID-19, I was not at the last one that just happened, but I'm guessing with COVID-19, there probably won't be the same type of turnout for Museum Mile. And same way for any event that normally brings groups here, like the free concerts they have in the summer in Central Park. I'm not sure how it's going to happen this year as well. I get to talk about the Mount Sinai Hospital, which is probably the reason why there is traffic straight in front of us here. Let me see if you can see it from your screen. Mount Sinai Hospital is, so if you count the building from the one on the left here, the white one, you will count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the fifth building on the left. Okay, that would be Mount Sinai Hospital. And guessing they're just busy having ambulances coming in and out and traffic outside of that hospital, usually around this area all the time. This is also an area where most people who live around this area in these apartment buildings pay a lot more than on the other side of the park on the west side. Okay. On the west side of the park, we often say new money. And on this side of the park, we got chat questions. No. On this side of the park, we have old money. So if you could just easily imagine, if you're on the other side of the park where we say new money, you could say, my name is Denzel Washington, or I am Madonna, or my name is such and such. But on this side of the park, you would be more likely to say, my grandfather was Astor, my grandmother was Kennedy, and such and such. Okay, it's kind of a different types of wealth. And we'll talk about that a little bit more when we're driving by what we call Millionaires Row, which is over on this side. But back to museum talks here. Not too far from here is actually the former location of the Museum of Photography. Of course, the Museum of Photography is no longer the same place. It is now further down near 43rd Street. Okay, I'll show you the former location here when we get to it. So this is Mount Sinai Hospital at the next traffic light, which is the next intersection here, Mount Sinai Hospital, where they have great doctors, amazing nurses. They also have a Pomodoro sculpture there. I'm not sure if anyone here heard of Pomodoro. He's an Italian artist who, in my opinion, is an idealist also, because every time he kind of make a sculpture, he doesn't really finish it. He usually make this sphere or globe. And he did one for the United Nations, a golden color, bronze color sphere that he did. He left it at the UN garden, and he said he will finish that sphere. He'll make it complete the day there is world peace. Okay. And he did one for Mount Sinai, and that is in the back of Mount Sinai Hospital. And he said he will finish that one the day there is no more disease in the world. I'm guessing he will be a very busy person the day there is no disease and there is peace everywhere. He have all these works that he had to finish and complete. So there's a Guggenheim Pavilion on our left side of the Mount Sinai Hospital, big hospital complex. It's not just this location, they have other location. And we all probably remember that after Hurricane Sandy, we didn't have power for quite some time below 39th Street, and many hospitals had to transfer their patients to other hospitals on the Upper West and Upper East side of the city. And later on, Bellevue Hospital, which was running with generators for about a couple of days, had also to send. Bellevue Hospital is the biggest hospital in New York, and they also had to send their patients to Mount Sinai Hospital. Okay. John Rivers passed away at Mount Sinai Hospital. Probably some of us remember that. But I'm looking to my right now. I'm gonna see if I can do this for you guys. There's a whole lot of nurses and I guess doctors, medical healthcare professionals who are having lunch over here. I'm actually holding the camera now with like this. So look at this. With all this traffic, you have a FedEx truck over here, double park. Go ahead, Mr. Doctor. This is unbelievable. All right, I'm putting back my camera here to practice safe driving and talking. So after Mount Sinai Hospital, we'll be able to see more museum. The next one we'll see is the former location, obviously, of the Museum of Photography. But after that, really, will be the former mention of the Warburg family. Warburg family was a German Jewish family, very, very rich. I mean, why do I say very, very rich? Should I say just rich? Because they lived in a building here alone, 6 of them. And that building is amazing. And it's now the museum, the Jewish Museum. And it's all about Jewish culture before the Holocaust in that museum. We do have a Jewish Holocaust museum in New York. So this is, yeah, traffic is moving up a little, moving down a little bit more that we pass Mount Sinai. Oh, this car behind. On my left, you cannot see it. I moved my camera. There's a car here. If he moves, you'll be able to see the Pomodoro sculpture in the back over there. The circle, the sphere that I was just talking about over there in the left. Okay. And on this side of the park, you'll be able to notice all the way in the back over there, the El Dorado Towers, where Marilyn Monroe had lived. Okay. So, back to my little bit of traffic here. Usually there's traffic here. It does move after we pass Mount Sinai, which it is doing, so nothing surprising. And it gets better than this, okay? I was afraid that traffic would be like this. There was an Uber car that was just parked over here, people to get out of it. I'm actually surprised there's a lot of people in the park right now in picnic mode. And all these cars that are double parked on the left, I don't know if you noticed them, look, all of them. I mean, I understand the ambulance, with everything else, probably not. Okay, these are personal views and opinion that did not really bring you here. So let me continue my talk today. Sorry, get carried away sometime. All right, so back to the former location of museum photography. We'll get to it eventually. And the Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis Reservoir, which is from about 96th Street all the way down to about 85th Street, so Mid Park. No, let me give you a little, let's say a little tip. When you walk in Central Park, there is no street avenue signs. There is no straight line either. The only straight line is called a mall. And a mall is a path created by two lines of trees or buildings or whatever that is, but it's a promenade, a path. So how do you know where you are? Well, look at the lamps. At the bottom of the lamps, you will see a serial number. It's usually 4 digits. The 2 first numbers tell you what street you are on. And the last 2 numbers, if they are even, you're on the east side, meaning near 5th Avenue. If it's odd, you're on the west side. Because in case you haven't noticed already, in New York City, even street numbers, the traffic heads east. Odd numbers, the traffic head west, unless it's a main street. Okay, just behind 1133 with the black shutters on the left, red brick, that is the former location of the Museum of Photography. And now on the left, after the traffic light, you'll see with the orange banner and white writings on it, the Jewish Museum, which was the former mention of the Warburg family, a German Jewish family of 6 people. And then after that, with the green awning on the left there, 1107, right next door to it is the Sacred Heart School, girl-only Catholic school where Lady Gaga went to school and came out of Munster. And then the Cooper Hewitt Museum on the left, the former mention of Andrew Carnegie, which is now the Museum for kind of fashion design. Here on the left, Andrew Carnegie lived alone in that building with 64 rooms. The first private mention to have its own elevator. Okay, some titles to have. Andrew Carnegie was very, very wealthy. Oh, you're welcome. The person who said thanks for the tour and said that the tour was great. I really appreciate that. I'm glad you enjoyed it. So Andrew Carnegie was born in Scotland, but he was a New Yorker. He gave us Carnegie Hall. He also was the guy who found how to use steel and apply it to the construction of anything. I mean, you think the guy was rich. Do you use steel for the construction of almost anything nowadays? Sure, yes. Oh, somebody appreciate the Central Park tip. Sure, you're welcome. And trust me, you find yourself in the middle of nowhere in Central Park and you wonder, like, there is no street, no avenues. Maybe your phone died, who knows? Looks like there is a traffic accident here. We're about to see the giant cupcake off to the left, white building there. That's the Guggenheim Museum. This is where you put the thing on your ways. That there is a car that is stopped right here. The Guggenheim Museum opened in 1959. Can you imagine that in 1960 you could have paid $1.50 and see Andy Warhol work right here? Okay. The Guggenheim Museum was designed by an American architect, Frank Lloyd Wright, who died a year before it opened. He died in 1958. The museum opened in 1959. And he did not want it to be pure white, warm white. He wanted it to be pink, okay? The building on the left here at the light with the red colors, that is the new gallery where I'm gonna talk about that in a second. 1040 Fifth Avenue with the awning here. That's where Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis, the first lady, used to live at the 9th floor, 17-room apartment. She used to run around the reservoir every day. She passed away from cancer. I'm gonna actually pull over here for just a quick second, because we are about exactly where the Metropolitan Museum of Art is located. And I'm gonna pause here for just a quick second. Guys, turn the camera towards me and I'm gonna backtrack with you a little bit. Here's what I'm gonna do. So here, Mindy, I got lost so many times before I became a tour guide, trust me. And I know tour guides who get lost in the park all the time. So here's the thing. Okay, let me stop this. I was talking about many things because it all comes up back to back, right? And it's safer to just stop and talk about them one after the other. So let's go back to the Guggenheim Museum. Frank Lloyd Wright only worked right there in Manhattan. He did not want it to be white. He wanted it to be pink. They did not do pink. It's an abstract art that you go there, futuristic art. You follow the museum, you go inside, you go around in circle and you see everything. Okay, you can go all the way to the top first, then go down and see everything on a spiral level. It's a really great museum. I highly recommend it. It is not free. It's only free on, I think it's free Friday afternoon from 6 p.m. So make sure if you're going to visit it, it's also open on Monday. Then after that one came the New Gallery. It's spelled N-E-U-E, New Gallery. That is where you have the German and Austrian arts. And that's where you would have, before the recent purchase, the most expensive painting in New York City until 2018 was, and don't quote me on that, it's 2018 or 2019. I'll tell you which one it is in a second. Some of you will surely remember that. The most expensive painting in New York City from 1942 all the way to 2018 or 19, at least with the price, okay, because some paintings are priceless, was the Adele Black Bauer one by Gustav Klimt. And it was purchased by Adele Black Bauer one, and it's Gustav Klimt was, okay, Guggenheim is free Saturday. That is the correct time. Thank you so much, Mindy. See, I like when you guys are keeping up with me here. I appreciate that. All right, so everyone get the correction. Guggenheim is free Saturday. Yeah, and it's been a while too. Haven't done the tour in a minute. Back to the painting. Adele Black Bauer one by Gustav Klimt, $135 million. She purchased it. Gustav Klimt represented her on it as well. Has gold powder. It's amazing painting. I mean, you look at it, the first thing you want to do is throw out $135 million. Okay, it's just amazing. And then it inspired a movie called The Lady in Gold. If some of you, either The Lady in Gold is the title or something like that, if you guys want to watch that. Okay, why it is so expensive and everything. But at Christie's Galleries, they had an auction not too long ago, and I was on vacation. I remember that I was on vacation, and last year I went on vacation 5 different times before travel was banned and everything. 2019. So it might have been last year where they sold a painting at Christie's for, I believe, $450 million. Okay, 450 is either 350 or 450. I'm saying this because I just want you to have a scope, an idea of the price. Okay, not more so exactly to say, okay, if you got to go get it back, this is a price for it. But let's say $350 million. Sometimes I sit in my living room and I am just thinking, if I purchased a $350 million painting, where in my living room I'm going to put that painting? Is it on the left? Is it on the right? I mean, this is incredible. Great for people to appreciate art. Now then, I'm going to continue. In front of you, on the right here, you cannot see well because of the trees right there. But we're going to pass in front of it shortly. All of you, I hope, I'm pretty sure have seen this museum before because it is the biggest art museum in New York City and one of the biggest art museums in the world. It is the Metropolitan Museum of Art, aka the Met. It's been here since 1874 and it has so much art that the exhibitions here are always changing. They're changing and it's worth coming back to, it's worth visiting. It's incredible, the Metropolitan Museum of Art. I don't know how many times I've been inside this museum and I will go back gladly. Oh yes, Mindy's favorite museum. I love the Met. I mean, the Met is so big. Let me give you a scope, an idea of how big it is. It is so big. They have so much art inside this museum that if they stacked it all together, it would be 17 city blocks, okay? 17 city blocks. And they have a whole Egyptian temple inside the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Oh, look, they have these beautiful sculptures right outside the entrance on this pedestal. Now, these gotta be temporary because the original architects of the Met, they wanted to put statues over there, but they never done them. They never finished them. So anytime you ever came to the Met, you would not have seen those finished. That's the Irish Historical Society on the left here. And the Castelli Gallery is not far from here neither. Bloomberg has a place over here to the left as well. The Ukrainian Institute of America is on the left here next to the French Cultural Attaché on the left where you see the red, the blue, white, and red flag. We are officially now on Millionaires Row. And I got to say one more thing about the Met. They used to charge $25 if you don't have a New York or New Jersey ID. So if you are not from New York or New Jersey, you would have to pay $25. But it's otherwise, you know, you can give them something if you're from New York or New Jersey. And I also have to say that there are times when you come to the Met, and I'm only gonna, I hope this is not, this recording doesn't go for everybody to know, because this is a tip for you guys who are participating on this call to know. Whenever you go to the Met and there is a long line, okay, Promise to not share this with anybody else. So whenever you go to the Met and there's a long line because it's raining and whatever, there's a whole lot of people waiting outside, here's what I suggest you do. There is an entrance on the side, okay, that is handicap and group entrance. It's just at the bottom of the stairs left and bottom of the stairs right. It's very small entrance. You could just use those entrance. There is never a line over there. Okay, and you go through security and you'll be downstairs. Okay, oh, they changed the policy. New York only don't have to pay $25. Not New Jersey anymore. Don't say that. I live in New Jersey. Okay, that's fine. I'll still present my ID or show them my tour guide ID. On the left, the Frick Museum, where you see the fences. I was here in February. Henry Clay Frick, not Freak, Frick, was a collector, was a distributor of coke to Andrew Carnegie. And coke here was a material they used for the incineration of metal. Okay, the Frick Museum is one of my favorite museums in New York. It's free on Sunday from 10 to 12 if you like to visit it. It is actually not part of Museum Mile, sadly, although it's on Fifth Avenue. It's the former mansion of Frick. Before he died, he asked the city, you know, to use it as a museum. After his death, his wife made sure of that, and they renovated it accordingly. It has, you can see Rembrandt at the Frick Museum. You know, the Met, you can see all types of art from antique Egypt to nowadays. But at the Frick, you can see what the man was collecting. You know, he was an avid collector of art, and he collected all types of greatness. And all of that you can see inside that museum, alongside the furniture of his time, you know, late 1800. You also see the Book of Wealth. He has actually a collection of those books that was supposedly today's money would be worth somewhere around $400,000. The collection that he has, you know, really great museum, highly recommended, amazing service in there too as well. And it's not something so big that you will get lost in there. So Millionaires Row coming down, and this guy who just doesn't care about his life anymore. And now we're about to just pass by where you see the police car right across the street from the biggest synagogue in New York, which is on the left here, Temple Emmanuel, facing Central Park Zoo on our right. I'm going to take out the camera to point at them again. This is the synagogue where they had the funeral of Joan Rivers. This is Temple Emmanuel. And Central Park Zoo is on the right where this gentleman is standing. And the entrance of the zoo is across the street over here on 64th Street, where you can also find the headquarters of the city's recreation park departments, okay? So yes, that's the entrance I'm talking about, the 81st Street. But that's correct, Mindy. I'm talking about the 81st Street entrance of the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Whenever I had tour groups, student groups, I used that entrance. But even as an individual, you can also use that entrance. And it is okay, I think, if it's not like you are trying to rush in front of people who really need that entrance more. So if I see a line of people who are disabled or challenged trying to enter, I'm not gonna try to go in front of them. But if it's really not used at all, you could just literally walk in there, and there is no reason to wait all this line. And it's just, anyway, it's just a little insider there. Okay, so we are now on Fifth Avenue, the famous fancy Fifth Avenue. The Plaza Hotel will be on our right here. Plaza Hotel opened in 1907. First family to stay there was the Vanderbilt family. And cheapest night was around now $600 or so. That's the Apple Store glass building here. The tall building on the left with the scaffolding coming up, that's the Trump Tower. Okay, it's better that I use this light and show you around real quick. So there is the Apple Store, open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. GM building, Bergdorf Goodman. Right here actually is the RS Gallery. And take a look here. In front of us at the end, the Empire State Building. This is the Trump Tower, the brown glass building, and the Plaza Hotel with the blue scaffolding on the side over here. Now, mind you, whenever I do a customized tour or private tour of a sort, I actually do make some short stops for people to get out, go closer to these places, or even to absorb more of the history or the facts about these places as well. So there's Louis Vuitton store where they have the rainbow colors on the left. Louis Vuitton, Moet Hennessy is right here, and Tiffany's. Love Tiffany's when it's closed. It's so beautiful. The doors uh, remind me of the door of a bank vault. The Trump Tower clock right here where they had the apprentice, where the president lived for a while. First lady also did. And Fifth Avenue of the boutiques, Versace, Ferragamo, Fendi, Cartier, Tiffany, Gucci, Pucci, Tucci, Nucci, Sushi, whatever. It's all over here on Fifth Avenue. Very different in the COVID-19 era. And we're going to be passing by St. Patrick's Cathedral soon. You'll be seeing those the steeples of the cathedral as well. Fifth Avenue is the most expensive address in Manhattan. A lot of wealthy people had lived on Fifth Avenue because it's the middle. It separates east and west. It's not far from everything. Whenever you're on Fifth Avenue, you're halfway there, wherever there may be. And something shocking here. So you have on the right Nike, Dyson, then Victoria's Secret. Then on the left, you have St. Patrick's Cathedral, the largest neo-Gothic Catholic cathedral in North America, here since 1877, built by the Irish community of New York, designed by, now that I mentioned that, hold on, the same architect who designed Grace Church, okay? He was 60 when he did this. And I believe here, I'm talking about Mr. I'm gonna tell you right now his name. I'm having a little old person moment here while I'm at Rockefeller Center heading towards Times Square. I'm gonna pull over here for 1 second. There you go. That's where they used to have the Today Show here on the left there in front of you. Pretty empty site. James Renwick Jr. Is this Mindy Castle, the tour guide? Because I'm having a feeling here I know who's there. James Renwick Jr., that is very correct. That is absolutely correct, Mindy. Now tell me, is your last name Mindy Castle? Because if it is, then I know a tour guide whose name is Mindy. No, it's not. Is it Raymond? You're not a tour guide. You know quite well. Yeah, that is James Renwick Jr., and he was 60. I was just having a old person moment here for a second. And James Renwick Jr. did Grace Church when he was 23 years old in 1842. And when he, in 1877, he did St. Patrick's Cathedral. At the time I was speaking just a few minutes ago, in my head, I'm still thinking about Trinity Church, Richard of John, Trinity Church, Richard of John. That's why. So, but here we are at Rockefeller Center. I've been doing these tours since 2007. Myself as a tour guide. So there is Rockefeller Center. This is the 30 Rockefeller Plaza building, also known as the 30 Rock, used for the exterior shots of the show 30 Rock. They have NBC studios inside. They also have the top of the rock, observation deck 67, 69, 70th floor. What was called the Rambo Room is there too. And all of these buildings that look similar, part of Rockefeller Center. It's a complex of 30 buildings linked one another with tunnels and underground ways. You could spend a whole day inside these places without having your hair wet from a raindrop. The flags are the flags of the country members of the United Nations, because Rockefeller gave to the UN the land where they are. And as a perpetual reminder, we have these flags over here, okay? This way also they have the Christmas tree every year. On the right side, there is actually a sign on the ground that says Christmas tree, which is just, I guess, for the delivery person, anytime that they feel confused, to know exactly where to put that tree. Christie's Galleries will be off to the left here, right across from Rockefeller Center, 30 Rock. So Christie's, where they sold a Van Gogh for 80 million, a Picasso for 120 million, and that painting for $350 million, Like, I guess you're not rich until you can afford these things. But priceless as they are, hopefully everyone's art get to that level or is recognized as such. On the left, there it is, Christie's, with they have beautiful flags of the gallery and a rainbow flag out there too. Now we're about to cross 6th Avenue. Here there's a nice pastry place, bakery called Magnolia Bakery, just off to the right. This building here I'm pointing at, they shown in the movie The Devil Wears Prada as the headquarters of the Runway Fashion Magazine. That is 1221 Avenue of the Americas. And this is the bakery called Magnolia. The original one is on Bleecker Street. That was shown in the movie Sex and the City in the show. That's where the girls love their cupcakes, at 401 Bleecker Street. Okay. The tall building in the very back on the right with the green pyramid top, that's where I started to talk on this tour today. That is Worldwide Plaza. That was just about, I guess, an hour ago, maybe a little bit less than an hour ago when I started to speak there. Worldwide Plaza is at the location of the 3rd Madison Square Garden from 1924 to 1964, the place where Joe Louis used to box, Sugar Ray Robinson, and May 19th of 1968, Marilyn Monroe sang Happy Birthday to John F. Kennedy.